Tonight, as the world around you slows, allow the hum of the present to fade. The lights dim, the air cools, and somewhere beyond your window, night folds itself across the sky. Take a slow breath and let it reach the farthest corners of your chest. Then let it go. In that single motion, the noise of the modern world begins to loosen its hold. The traffic, the screens, the voices, all drift away until only stillness remains. We are going backward now, softly, peacefully, floating through centuries until the world becomes simpler, slower, and smaller. Each inhale carries you further from the present. Each exhale brings you closer to a gentler time. The candle of imagination flickers and the centuries turn. The year is the mid-1600s. Europe lies beneath a grey autumn sky, its rivers swollen from recent rain, its villages small as candle flames scattered across the map. In the Rhine Valley, the harvest has just ended. The scent of apples and hay lingers in the fields. A cart creaks down a muddy road, its iron rims whispering over stones. From a distant cottage window drifts the hum of a hymn, low and steady, blending with the evening air. Inside that house, a family bows their heads at a wooden table. No fine plates or silver cups gleam there. Only rough bread, a bowl of milk, and a quiet gratitude that fills the room like warmth. These are the early Amish, though they are not yet called that name. They are Anabaptists, farmers and craftsmen who have turned from kingdoms and kings to live in peace with the land and with God. Their lives move at the pace of the sun. Morning begins when the light touches the thatch. Night falls when the fire burns to an ember. They seek no power, build no monuments, and write no boasts. In their simplicity lies a kind of courage, the bravery to be content. The house smells of wood smoke and bread. The walls breathe the slow rhythm of home. A cradle rocks in the corner, stirred by a draught through the shutter. The father folds his coat beside the door. The mother hums softly to the child. Outside, the last colours of daylight dissolve into grey. In the distance, a cow lowing, a rooster confused by the moon. Every sound belongs, every motion has meaning. The stillness is not emptiness, but fullness, a space where peace can live. As you listen, let your breathing match theirs, steady, unhurried, true. Inhale as though drawing the scent of rain-wet fields. Exhale and feel your own century drift away. This is a relaxing historical bedtime story, a history sleep story whispered for comfort rather than instruction. There are no loud discoveries here, no wars to win, only the rhythm of work and rest and faith. We step outside the farmhouse and stand beneath the sky. The stars hang low, blurred by a veil of mist. A lantern sways by the gate, its flame bending with the breeze. The earth smells of soil and hay. Somewhere nearby, water slides through a narrow ditch, making a sound like a whispered prayer. This is the world of the 17th century Amish. Plain, patient, and deeply still. Even the night is part of their order, a time for reflection, for surrender, for quiet trust that dawn will return as it always does. Take another breath. You are walking now through a place where life is measured not by clocks, but by seasons. Time itself seems to breathe. The barns, the fields, the people, all move in harmony. The world you know, the restless buzz of engines, the pulse of electricity, feels impossibly far away. What remains is human and humble. Hands in soil, hearts at peace, the hush of wind among the sheaves. The candle trembles again, and with its flicker, the scene deepens. Rain begins to fall, soft as dust, tapping on the roof and beading on the glass. Inside the farmhouse, everyone sleeps. Father, mother, children, each dreaming their quiet dreams beneath quilts heavy with age. The only light is the faint orange of the dying fire, glowing across the wooden floorboards. The air carries the scent of smoke, wool, and rain. In the corner of the room sits a small chest. Inside, folded carefully, are letters written in thick ink by neighboring hands. They speak not of distant cities or grand events, but of blessings. May your harvest be gentle. May your heart remain humble. Words are precious things here, small but enough. In the morning, those same hands will plough, weave, bake, and build again. No hour is wasted, and no labour is vain. When dawn returns, it does so quietly. The rooster calls, the fire sighs, the house wakes. Cold water drawn from the well chills the fingers of those who wash before breakfast. Bread bakes on the hearth. The smell of yeast and smoke fills the room. The men hitch horses to ploughs, their boots sinking into soft earth. The women hum over their work, the sound steady and warm. There is no hurry in these motions, no race against the day. They move as though shaping time itself. Each gesture a prayer, each breath an offering. To live this way is not to reject the world, but to choose a gentler rhythm within it. The Amish do not measure success in gold or fame, but in faith kept and peace maintained. The clang of a hammer, the murmur of wind through the fields, the laughter of children in the yard. These are their hymns. Here, beneath the slow-moving clouds of the 17th century, you can almost feel the world breathing with them. The rain eases into mist. The roof drips softly. Through a small square window, the moon appears, pale, unhurried, kind. In your mind, you lie in one of those straw-filled beds, quilt drawn to your chin. The air is cool, the night endless, the silence complete. There is no clock to tell you when to sleep, no alarm to summon you back. Time belongs to the dark and to the dawn that will come in its own way. You hear a voice, mine, quiet even, steady. We walk together through this soothing story for sleep, pausing where the heart asks to linger. There will be no noise here, no conflict to disturb the calm. The past is not a place of drama tonight. It is a soft landscape of repetition and care. The Amish believed holiness could be found in the ordinary, in milking a cow, in mending a fence, in kneading bread for the day ahead. They saw beauty not in what changed, but in what endured. Outside, a dog barks once, then yields to the hush. The smell of damp earth rises, mingling with the sweetness of straw. Beyond the meadow, the river moves unseen, its current whispering like a hymn. If you listen closely, you can hear that same rhythm in your own breathing, steady, timeless, true. Let every word fall like rain across your thoughts. There is nothing to fix, nothing to remember, only to feel. The story does not ask for attention, it offers permission to rest. It carries you like a slow current beneath the stars, through a world built on peace. The candle has burned to its end. Smoke curls into the rafters, fades and disappears. Night thickens. The house is still. Your heartbeat softens to the same rhythm as the quiet world you've entered. From here, our journey will go deeper, into the beliefs, the farms, the community of the Amish, as they began to cross oceans and shape new lands. But not yet. For now, we remain here, at the edge of sleep, where past and present blend. Breathe once more, long and low. You are safe, you are warm. You are far from the noise of the present age. The 17th century surrounds you like a quilt of silence. Its fabric is woven of patience, its color the gentle brown of earth after rain. If your eyes close, let them. If your mind drifts, follow it. The story will wait. Sleep, traveler of time. The past keeps its own watch, and tonight it keeps watch over you. The rain fades. Crickets return. Silence lingers. Soft sound of wind through grass fades in. A single bird calls in the distance. The narrator speaks slowly, like the first breath of morning. Morning drifts into being not with an alarm or the hum of machines, but with the quiet turning of the earth itself. The sky, pale and wide, begins to lighten from grey to gold. You awaken in a world far removed from the noise of the modern day, a gentler age, where time moves at the pace of the rising sun. The air is cool, soft against your skin, carrying the faint scent of rain that passed in the night. You listen, and for a long moment there is nothing, only stillness, deep and kind. Outside your small window, the first light slips across the horizon. Mist floats low over the meadows, thick enough to blur the trees into soft shapes. Beyond the haze, the outline of a farmhouse glows faintly, as if wrapped in candlelight. Somewhere, a rooster calls once, his cry echoing across the valley, and then the world sighs itself awake. You rise slowly, as if not to disturb the peace that rests in every corner. The bed creaks beneath you, a simple frame of oak, carved by hand. The sheets are coarse linen, rough but comforting, warmed by the body heat you leave behind. Bare feet meet cold wooden floors, and the sound of your steps mingles with the soft groan of timber. You move toward the door, your hand brushing against the rough grain of the wall. When you open it, the morning greets you like an old friend. The air outside feels alive. It smells of wet earth, smoke, and something sweet, perhaps hay drying in the barn, or apples that fell during the night. The fields roll out before you, veiled in mist, their furrows dark and rich. A few cows stand by the fence, tails flicking lazily, their breath steaming in the cold. A horse stamps its hoof, the sound deep and slow. Everything here breathes with the same rhythm, measured, patient, eternal. This is the world of the 17th century, a time before engines, before streetlights, before the restless hum of progress. In this corner of the Rhine Valley, people live in harmony with the rise and fall of the day. Their homes are small but strong, built from stone, timber, and faith. The walls are thick to keep out the chill. The roofs are steep and thatched with straw, golden in the sunlight. Smoke curls from the chimneys, carrying the promise of warmth and bread. You walk down a narrow dirt path that winds between the cottages. Dew clings to your shoes, soaking through to your toes. But it doesn't matter. The morning air feels clean, almost sacred. A woman stands by a well, her hands steady as she draws up a bucket of water. Her sleeves are rolled to her elbows and her hair is hidden beneath a white cap. Across the road, a man guides 2 horses to a plough, his shoulders broad, his movements unhurried. When he pauses, he wipes his brow and looks to the sky, as if checking not the time, but the weather, the mood of the land itself. You stop beside a wooden fence. A sparrow lands on the post near your hand, tilting its head as if curious about you. Its tiny claws scratch the wood, and then, with a small flutter, it's gone. Even the smallest life here seems to hold purpose, to belong. The stillness of this place isn't emptiness, it's fullness made quiet. In this century, the people who will one day be called the Amish are known as Anabaptists. They live humbly, guided by faith and the steady rhythm of the seasons. They are farmers, weavers, and shepherds, seeking a life untouched by power or pride. Theirs is a world shaped not by kings or wars, but by devotion, to God, to family, to simplicity itself. As the light grows stronger, the village comes to life. Doors open, smoke thickens above the roofs. Somewhere, a child laughs, the sound high and clear as a bell. Another voice answers, a mother calling softly in German. You watch as she kneels to tie her daughter's shawl, brushing a curl of hair from her face. Nearby, an old man mends a wooden wheel, the rasp of his file slow and steady. Each sound belongs exactly where it is. You close your eyes for a moment and simply breathe. This is what peace feels like. Unforced, unannounced. You can almost feel your own heartbeat syncing with the world around you. The scent of soil and bread, the weight of the air, the silence between the sounds. It all moves together like a prayer whispered by the earth. I'm here with you in this story, walking beside you, both of us travelers in time. You hear me, and I hear the quiet in your breath. Together, we move deeper into this forgotten morning. This is two-way storytelling, a shared dream of the past. You can imagine the feel of the dirt beneath your feet, the warmth of sunlight brushing your face. You can almost taste the freshness of the water drawn from the well. The scene grows clearer, calmer, softer. Far across the valley, a bell rings, just once, distant and low. It's not a church bell for the Amish. Their prayers are spoken in homes, not sanctuaries. But the sound carries, floating over the fields like a voice reminding you that even in silence, faith endures. The wind shifts. A few clouds drift slowly across the blue. Somewhere beyond the hills, another village wakes. Another fire kindles. You walk further, past a garden heavy with herbs and late flowers. The air hums with bees, their wings faint and steady. A cat moves lazily along the fence, tail flicking. Every sight, every sound, every scent feels intentional, unhurried. There's no rush here, no list to complete, no deadline to chase, only the rhythm of the world turning in peace. You pause beside the stream that runs through the valley. The water glimmers under the sunlight, clear enough to see smooth stones beneath the surface. It murmurs softly as it flows, a song older than memory. Kneeling by the edge, you dip your fingers into the water. It's cold, clean, real. For a moment, you forget the world you came from. You forget the screens, the noise, the constant pull of tomorrow. Here, time does not chase. It waits. In this stillness, you understand something the Amish held sacred, that simplicity is not lack, but abundance in its purest form. That peace is not the absence of sound, but the presence of balance. They believed that every breath, every task, every shared meal could be an act of worship if done with care. To rise with the sun, to work with your hands, to rest when the light fades, that was holiness made ordinary. The mist begins to lift. The fields glow in soft gold. Birds scatter from the trees, and the day stretches wide before you. You look toward the distant hills and imagine the hundreds of small lives unfolding there. Families gathering, fires being lit, fields being tended, each one a quiet story in a larger whole. And as you breathe, you feel the story settle deeper into you, not just as a listener, but as someone living it. The gentle labor of morning, the scent of smoke, the hush of the earth, they become part of your own calm. This is not history told with noise or speed. This is boring history for sleep, a kind of beauty that lulls instead of excites, that rests instead of teaches. You are not here to learn. You are here to drift, to let the world of the past carry you into its rhythm until sleep itself feels like part of the story. The mist thins completely now. The sun warms the ground, and as the farmhouse comes into view once more, you feel the peace of this place wrap around you like a blanket. Take a slow breath in and a long one out. You are here, safe, still, and far from all noise. Soft pause. The wind continues to hum. A faint distant bell rings once more. Soft instrumental hum in the background. The sound of distant bells fades. The narrator speaks slowly, with the rhythm of a calm breeze. As the sun climbs gently above the hills, light spills across the valley, painting everything it touches in shades of amber and gold. The mists of morning retreat, leaving behind a shimmering dew that clings to every blade of grass, every cobweb strung between fence posts. You can see the life of the community unfold before you now. Quiet, deliberate, filled with meaning. The air is alive with soft sounds, the creak of wagon wheels, the rhythmic scrape of a broom against a wooden floor, the gentle laughter of children still half asleep. These are not sounds that disturb, they soothe, as though the world itself is breathing around you. This is what Amish life in the 17th century feels like. Not a chapter in a textbook, but a rhythm of being. You begin walking again, feeling the earth give softly beneath your steps. A rooster crows once more, and smoke begins to curl higher from the chimneys. A family gathers outside their home, father, mother, and children. They stand together facing east, where the first warmth of morning light touches their faces. They pray not with grand gestures, but with stillness, lips moving in quiet gratitude. After the prayer, life begins to hum. The father, his face weathered but kind, lifts a wooden yoke across his shoulders. From it hang 2 pails filled with water drawn from the well. His boots press into the soft soil as he walks toward the barn. The mother opens the door to their small kitchen, letting out the smell of fresh bread rising in the oven. The children gather eggs from the coop, careful not to break their fragile shells. Inside the home, you can almost feel the warmth of the fire flickering in the hearth. The kitchen is simple. A large wooden table, benches worn smooth by years of use, and shelves lined with earthenware jugs and tin cups. The air carries the scent of ash, milk, and bread. A pot of porridge simmers slowly, its quiet bubbling blending with the occasional snap of burning wood. There are no clocks here, no urgency, only the natural rhythm of the sun and the steady ticking of life itself. You feel it too, this peace that comes not from stillness alone, but from purpose. Every task, every movement is done with intention. The sweep of the broom, the pouring of water, the kneading of dough, all feel sacred in their simplicity. A young boy, no more than 10, sits by the window. His hands are busy carving a small wooden horse from a scrap of pine. His knife moves carefully, guided by patience rather than haste. His mother glances at him now and then, smiling softly. Outside, his sister hums a tune while hanging linen on the line, her fingers moving in a rhythm learned from her mother before her. The sheets sway in the wind, white against the sky, like sails of a ship that never needs to leave home. Step outside again for a moment. The road winds gently between fields of rye and wheat, their stalks swaying like a quiet ocean. Farmers work side by side, their movements slow and sure. They speak little, but their silence is not empty. It's filled with understanding, the kind that comes from shared labor and shared faith. The wooden handles of their tools are worn smooth from years of touch, polished not by time but by care. A horse-drawn wagon rattles softly down the path. Inside it, 2 young women sit with baskets of vegetables, carrots, turnips, and onions freshly pulled from the soil. Their bonnets cast soft shadows over their faces. They smile as they pass, their laughter carried lightly by the breeze. There is no vanity in their joy. It is simple, like the land itself. Further down the road, you come upon the village's communal barn. Large, sturdy, built from timber beams that lock together without a single nail. Inside, men and women work side by side. Some stack hay, others repair tools or mend harnesses. Their hands are strong, their movements sure. A hymn drifts softly from someone's lips, and soon others join in. The song rises gently, not loud enough to disturb the stillness, but strong enough to fill the air with warmth. The melody speaks of faith and endurance, of gratitude for the soil and the seasons. Even if you don't know the words, you can feel their meaning. It's a language older than speech, the sound of togetherness, of work turned into worship. As you listen, you realize something beautiful. In this world, silence and sound live in harmony. Nothing here feels rushed or forced. Even the clatter of tools, the rustle of hay, the low murmur of conversation, all blend into the same quiet rhythm. It's as if the entire valley breathes together. One long, gentle exhale. You step back into the sunlight. The warmth on your face feels soft, almost liquid. The light glimmers through the trees, falling in broken patterns on the ground. Nearby, a woman tends a small garden. She hums as she moves, plucking herbs and arranging them in a woven basket. Mint, rosemary, sage, their scents mingle in the air, fresh and calming. She glances at you for a moment and smiles, as if recognizing a fellow traveler through time. In the distance, you can see children chasing each other along the path. Their laughter rises and falls like birds in flight. They stop suddenly at the sound of a bell, time for lessons. Their teacher, an older man with kind eyes, waits outside a small wooden schoolhouse. His beard is long, his voice low and even. The children gather around him, and he begins to speak of numbers, letters, and verses from Scripture. The classroom is modest. A few benches, a slate board, sunlight pouring through small windows. But there is a warmth here that no grand hall could match. The children listen, their faces bright with curiosity. Knowledge here is not about ambition. It is about gratitude for understanding, for language, for the ability to read the words of faith by candlelight. When lessons end, the children bow their heads in a short prayer before scattering back into the fields. Their laughter returns, blending once more with the hum of bees and the rustle of wind in the wheat. Life continues, steady as a heartbeat. As you walk further, you find yourself drawn toward the river at the edge of the village. The water moves lazily, silver under the sun. A group of women stand by the shore, washing linen against smooth stones. Their movements are rhythmic and sure, arms dipping, lifting, ringing, dipping again. Each splash feels like part of a larger song, a lullaby written by time itself. You sit nearby, watching the ripples travel outward, listening to the quiet rush of water. The sound seems to blend with your breathing. The longer you stay, the slower your thoughts move, until even your heartbeat seems to match the river's calm flow. The women speak softly among themselves, about weather, about the harvest, about new babies and old stories. Their voices are low and warm, blending like threads in a tapestry. Occasionally one of them laughs, and the sound rings bright, like sunlight breaking through clouds. There is a peace here that asks for nothing. It simply is. The Amish in this century knew that peace did not need to be earned. It was something you created through presence, through humility, through stillness. To live simply was not a retreat from the world, but a way to live deeply within it. The world beyond their valley was already changing. Cities growing, wars brewing, kings fighting for crowns. But here, life moved differently. The outside world chased progress. They pursued peace. And in that choice, they built something eternal. You rise slowly, brushing a bit of dust from your hands. The sunlight has shifted, now glowing softer, more golden. The day is maturing, but the calm remains. You look once more across the valley, the fields, the homes, the people, and realize that nothing here feels lost or forgotten. It's simply still alive in memory, waiting for you to visit whenever you need rest. The sound of the river fades, and in its place comes the distant rustle of wind through the trees. You take one last deep breath. The air smells of earth, water, and wood smoke. It fills your lungs like a prayer. And as you exhale, You let go of the noise you brought with you, the noise of modern life, of screens and clocks and endless motion. In its place, there is only the whisper of the 17th century world, still breathing, still alive, still here to cradle you into sleep. Soft pause, gentle instrumental returns, the narrator's voice lowers. Rest here for a while, traveler. The day is long, but peace has no end. You are safe. You are part of the story now. A faint melody hums in the distance, the sound of a low hymn fading like mist. The narrator's voice is calm, gentle, and steady. The sun now rests higher above the valley, warm but not harsh. The long shadows of morning begin to shorten, and the fields glisten beneath the wide blue sky. The rhythm of life continues, steady, unbroken, peaceful. You can hear the faint thud of a hammer from a distant barn, the creak of a cartwheel turning along the dirt road, the murmur of quiet voices that blend into the landscape like water into soil. This is a world guided not by wealth or ambition, but by faith. Not loud or forceful faith, but one carried in silence, like a steady heartbeat. The Amish of the 17th century believed that a quiet spirit was closer to God than a proud one. To live humbly was not a burden, it was freedom. You walk again through the village, passing a man repairing the roof of his home. He works slowly, every motion deliberate. Each strike of his hammer echoes softly, not rushed, not careless. You pause and watch. He notices you, offers a small nod, then returns to his task with calm focus. The wooden beams, the scent of pine sap, the faint sound of wind, all seem to join him in his work. A few steps further, an elderly woman sits on a stool near the doorway of her cottage. In her hands, she turns a spindle, twisting raw wool into thread. The movement is hypnotic. Twist, pull, release, twist again. Her eyes are soft, her face lined with years of kindness. As you pass, she looks up and smiles gently. "Gott mit uns," she whispers. "God is with us," you smile back and continue. The sound of her spinning fades, replaced by the whisper of leaves in the breeze. Everywhere you look, work and prayer flow together. There is no separation between the two. The act of baking bread, mending cloth, or tending the field is an act of devotion. Their faith is not confined to church walls. It lives in their breath, in their hands, in the dust beneath their feet. In the center of the village, a group of men are raising a new barn. The air hums with quiet determination. The timbers are heavy, yet no one works alone. Dozens of hands lift, push, and balance as one. The structure begins to rise, tall and graceful, framed against the sky. There are no shouts of command, only murmured words of cooperation, the creak of wood, and the shared breath of many souls moving together. You stand nearby, watching. One man pauses and wipes his brow. "It will stand long after we are gone," he says softly. His words are not for anyone in particular, but the others nod as though they heard something sacred. They work not for pride, but for permanence, to build something that will shelter generations yet unborn. In the afternoon light, you can see how the wood glows, rich and golden. It smells of pine and sawdust, of sunlight and sweat. Each beam is carefully shaped, every joint fitted by hand. There is patience here, the kind that modern life has forgotten. Every motion is measured, deliberate, necessary. A little distance away, women prepare a meal beneath a large oak tree. The sound of their laughter drifts through the air. One kneels by a small fire, turning a skillet of corn cakes, while another stirs a pot of soup. The smell is warm and earthy. Beans, herbs, and the faint hint of smoke. The children run between them, carrying wooden bowls and spoons. When the barn frame finally stands, tall and proud, The workers step back. For a moment no one speaks. Then, as if moved by the same thought, they bow their heads. A prayer is spoken in soft, low German, a prayer of gratitude. You listen, though you may not understand every word, but you feel it. The sincerity, the calm faith woven into each syllable. When the prayer ends, they eat together under the oak, sharing bread, soup, and quiet joy. No one boasts. No one hurries. They simply share the moment, as if time itself had decided to pause and rest beside them. You find a place to sit near the stream that runs behind the barn. The sunlight dances across the water, turning it into ribbons of gold and silver. A soft breeze brushes your face. From this spot, you can see the whole valley, the houses, the fields, the people, the sky. Everything feels balanced, peaceful, whole. The Amish call this Gelassenheit, the surrender of self, the peace that comes from letting go of pride and control. It's not weakness, but strength in stillness. To live with Gelassenheit is to move like the river, never hurried, never still, but always in harmony with what surrounds you. As you sit, you think about the contrast, the stillness of their world against the rush of your own. You think of how noise fills your days, screens, voices, clocks ticking in endless pursuit of the next thing. But here there is no next. There is only now. You dip your hand into the water again. It feels cool, grounding. The ripples spread gently outward, catching the sunlight as they go. You watch them fade until even the movement disappears into stillness once more. Nearby, a father and son are tending to the horses. The boy holds a brush, his small hand steady as he moves it across the animal's coat. The horse exhales, its breath slow and warm. The father says nothing for a while, only watching. Then he speaks softly. A lesson, perhaps, but spoken like a prayer. Patience, he says. Everything worth doing takes patience. The boy nods. The horse stamps its hoof once and lowers its head, content. It's a simple moment, but it carries the weight of centuries. A truth passed quietly from one life to the next. Faith is not always in words or books. Sometimes it's in the way a father teaches his child, or in the way hands shape wood into something lasting. You close your eyes and listen again to the sounds of the valley, the rustle of leaves, the distant hum of work, the murmured hymns rising from homes where candles now flicker in windows. Evening is approaching slowly, though the day still lingers. The light turns softer, the air cooler. Somewhere nearby, a group of voices begin to sing again, a low, harmonious hymn carried by the wind. It moves like a wave through the fields, brushing against you gently. The words speak of humility, of peace, of finding God in the smallest acts. The song seems to stretch across time itself, reaching from the 17th century into your present moment. You are both here and there, listener and traveller, past and present joined in the rhythm of a single breath. The music fades into quiet again. The sun dips slightly behind the western ridge. Shadows grow longer, reaching like soft fingers across the grass. The valley exhales once more. Slow, calm, eternal. The people begin to retreat toward their homes now, lanterns glowing faintly in the dusk. The air fills with the scent of wood smoke and supper. You follow the narrow road, feeling the world settle around you. Every step seems to slow your thoughts a little more. As you pass the barn one last time, you notice the men have left the tools where they rest, the saws and hammers lined neatly along the wall. Their work is done for the day, and in its stillness, the building itself feels alive, a quiet monument to the faith that built it. You stop, take a deep breath, and let your gaze drift upward toward the fading sky. It's streaked with pale gold and violet, The first star flickers faintly above the hills. The day like a candle begins to dim, and with it your own heart begins to slow, not in sadness, but in peace. You've seen their world, walked their paths, felt the rhythm of their faith. You've heard the language of humility, the hymn of labor, the poetry of stillness. This is what it meant to live simply. This is what it meant to live fully. Long pause. The background sound shifts to soft evening crickets. Rest now. Let the story settle like dust at sunset. Let the echoes of faith and work fade into your breathing. You are part of this world for a moment, a quiet witness to a time that asked only one thing of the heart: to be still and to be kind. The world is still half asleep when you open your eyes to the faint blush of dawn. A soft, cool breeze moves through the open fields, carrying with it the scent of dew, earth, and wood smoke. Somewhere nearby, a rooster calls lazily, as though reminding the sun of its duty to rise. You take a slow breath. The air feels clean, untouched, and the sky above you is just beginning to shift from violet to pale gold. The faint outline of cottages stirs against the horizon, thatched roofs, timber walls, and the slow promise of a day that will unfold gently. Without hurry, you begin to walk down a dirt path that leads toward the village. The world around you hums with the quiet energy of morning. Grass brushes against your legs, cool and wet, and the distant river glimmers faintly through the mist. As you draw nearer, the faint sounds of life begin to weave through the stillness. The rhythmic tapping of a hammer, the low murmur of voices, the creak of cartwheels moving over uneven ground. It's the sound of people waking, not with haste, but with purpose, as they've done for centuries, following a rhythm older than any clock. At the heart of the village, a small market is waking. Wooden stalls, still draped in linen cloth, stand in rows beside the cobblestone square. You can smell bread baking somewhere nearby, the rich, yeasty scent mingling with the sweetness of apples and the warmth of freshly churned butter. A woman lifts a basket from her cart, her hands rough from work yet gentle as she arranges loaves wrapped in linen. Her child, barely more than a toddler, toddles beside her, clutching a small wooden toy. You watch as she smiles down at the little one, her eyes soft with the kind of quiet joy that grows only in places like this. The village bell tolls once, a low, rounded sound that seems to echo through your chest. It isn't an alarm, not a summons, but rather a greeting, a reminder that the day has begun. One by one, shutters open, chickens scatter across the road, and a pair of oxen shuffle slowly past, their harnesses jingling faintly. A man calls out in a dialect older than the cities to come, his voice carrying the rhythm of barter and kinship. The market, once silent, begins to breathe. You step further in. The cobblestones beneath your feet are uneven and cool. A faint breeze carries the scent of beeswax candles and dried herbs from a nearby stall. The merchant there, a kindly old woman with a kerchief tied beneath her chin, arranges bundles of lavender, rosemary, and sage. She glances up at you, her eyes bright and knowing, and nods in quiet greeting. You nod back, your movements instinctively gentle, as though afraid to disturb the fragile beauty of the moment. As you move through the rows of stalls, the world becomes more textured. The clatter of pottery being stacked, the laughter of two men trading stories over barrels of cider, the distant bleating of goats from the hillside. It all forms a slow, rhythmic pattern, a kind of living lullaby. Every sound has its place. Every breath seems part of a story that's been told again and again through the centuries. Somewhere near the center of the square, a small fountain trickles, its water catching the light like liquid glass. Children gather there, tossing pebbles and giggling softly as the ripples spread outward. Behind them, a baker slides another tray of loaves into a brick oven, the crackle of fire and the scent of crust mingling with the cool morning air. The village blacksmith passes by, his hands stained with soot but his face calm, as though labour itself were a form of prayer. Now, through the gentle hum of voices, you begin to notice another figure, quiet, steady, and slightly apart from the rest. His name is Alaric, a young scribe known in the village not for strength or wealth, but for patience and the way he listens when others speak. He walks through the market carrying a small bundle of scrolls tied with cord. His robe is plain, his sandals worn, but his gaze holds the soft curiosity of someone who notices the smallest details. The way sunlight glints off pottery glaze, the faint pattern carved into a wooden beam, the rhythm of footsteps echoing through the square. Alaric pauses near a stall where a craftsman sells ink and parchment. He runs his fingers gently along the edge of a scroll, feeling the grain of the paper. The merchant, an older man with a deep voice, nods in recognition. These two have exchanged more than goods over the years. They've traded stories, knowledge, the shared understanding that history isn't just written by kings and battles, but by people who wake before dawn, light their fires, and build their days with care. You watch as Alaric buys a small vial of ink, its dark surface shimmering faintly in the morning light. He slips it into his satchel, then turns toward the edge of the square. The market behind him is now fully alive. Soft laughter, the murmur of greetings, the rhythm of trade. But as he walks away, you feel the pull of quiet curiosity and follow him. His steps are slow, deliberate, tracing the worn path that leads beyond the cottages and out toward the fields. The sun now hangs higher in the sky, brushing the rooftops with gold. Shadows stretch lazily across the road. The fields beyond the village shimmer with early light, patches of barley and rye swaying in the soft wind. You can hear birdsong, faint and scattered, and the faraway rush of the river as it winds its patient way through the countryside. Everything around you moves in unison, calm and cyclical, like the steady rhythm of a heartbeat. Alaric pauses at the crest of a hill. From there, he looks back at the village, the tiny figures moving like dancers across the square, the curling smoke from chimneys, the faint chime of the bell echoing once more. He smiles, though no one is near enough to see. You stand beside him in silence, the kind that feels warm rather than empty. For a moment, the world seems perfectly still. Time folds in on itself, the 17th century breathing just beside your own. You can feel it, the pulse of everyday life, the gentle, unhurried beauty of existence in its simplest form. A world without noise, without haste, only the soft rhythm of people living in harmony with the turning of the earth. As the morning deepens, Alaric adjusts the strap of his satchel and begins walking down toward the river path. You follow, the sound of your steps merging with his. The market fades behind you, its hum dissolving into birdsong and the distant rustle of trees. The scent of bread and herbs gives way to that of water and soil. Ahead, the river gleams, wide, calm, endless. The day stretches before you like an unwritten page, and somewhere within it, Alaric's story and your dream quietly continues to unfold. You can see farms scattered along the hillsides now, stone cottages with thatched roofs, smoke rising from morning fires. Women wash clothes along the banks, their laughter mingling with the rhythm of the river. A group of children chase geese through the grass, their voices echoing faintly before fading back into quiet. For a moment, you close your eyes, You can almost feel the sunlight warming your face, the rocking of the boat beneath you, the smell of the river mingling with wild mint and damp wood. It feels timeless, a world untouched by haste, where days unfold not by schedule, but by nature's slow design. This is history not as an event, but as a feeling, living, breathing, and eternal. Alaric opens one of his scrolls. The parchment glows faintly in the morning light, and the ink catches the sun like a thin line of metal. He reads softly, his voice steady and melodic, recounting stories of his people, not of battles or kings, but of the quiet rituals of everyday life. He speaks of bread baked before dawn, of hands that shaped clay into bowls, of fathers teaching their sons to steer boats along this same river centuries before. As he speaks, you listen not just with your ears, but with your whole being. The rhythm of his words matches the rhythm of the current. Time slows, stretching into the gentle space between one breath and the next. You realize that what he's reading is not history written on paper, but history still alive, carried forward by memory, preserved in motion and sound. The boat drifts beneath an arched stone bridge. Moss grows thick between the cracks, and the carvings of old symbols are nearly worn away. A swallow darts through the air, vanishing into the shadows beneath the arch. The echo of your passage lingers, a soft hum that merges with the river's voice. Beyond the bridge, the landscape opens wider, revealing meadows stretching to the horizon. Alaric closes his scroll and rests his hands on his knees. The oars remain still. It is said, he murmurs, that this river never truly ends, that it flows beneath the world and returns again in another form. Every drop finds its way home. You look at the endless expanse of water before you and feel the truth of it, deep and wordless. The current begins to slow. The surface smooths, reflecting the pale blue of the sky. In the stillness, every sound becomes distinct. The breath of the wind, the creak of the wood, the faint heartbeat of the world itself. You and Alaric sit in silence. No need for speech now. The moment stretches, infinite and peaceful. As the sun climbs higher, its light turns golden, setting the mist aglow. You can see small cottages dotting the far bank and the faint smoke of a distant harbour, your next destination, though there's no rush to reach it. The journey itself is enough. Alaric smiles faintly, adjusting the strap of his satchel. Let the river lead, he says softly, and you nod. The boat drifts once more, following the current toward whatever awaits. The world narrows to the rhythm of water and wind. Your thoughts grow slower, lighter, like leaves floating on the surface. The gentle motion lulls you deeper into calm, until even time feels as though it's falling asleep beside you. And as the river carries you forward, you realize that you are no longer just traveling through history. You are part of it now, moving within the same endless flow that has shaped the lives of countless others. The same sky, the same wind, the same soft sound of water finding its way home. The sun begins its slow descent as the river widens, and the horizon opens like a vast painted dream. The soft hum of the current grows quieter, as if the river itself is preparing for rest. Ahead, faint outlines of wooden masts rise against the golden sky. The harbour, waiting at the edge of day. The air changes here. You can smell salt, tar, and pine resin carried from the shipyards. The scent is rich, grounding, full of the stories of distant lands. Seabirds circle lazily above, their cries echoing faintly across the water. The soft splash of the oars marks your steady approach as the light grows warmer, the colour of honey and bronze. Alaric slows the boat and lets it drift the final stretch. Around you, the water is full of reflections. Sails fluttering like white ghosts, rooftops glowing amber. And beyond that, the first lanterns flickering to life. The harbour hums with quiet activity. Sailors coiling ropes, merchants counting crates, women sweeping doorsteps before night. There is no rush here, no shouts or chaos. Only the rhythm of work winding down, steady and unhurried, like a lullaby made of sound and light. As the boat touches the pier, Alaric stands and steadies himself. The wood creaks beneath his sandals, and for a moment he gazes across the harbour. The town stretching up the hillside, houses stacked in gentle rows, their windows glowing faintly like stars yet to rise. He lifts his satchel of scrolls and steps onto the dock, his movements slow, deliberate, as though each step belongs to something sacred. You follow him. The planks beneath your feet are smooth and damp. You can feel the faint vibration of the tide moving beneath them. Lanterns hang from tall iron posts, their flames bending slightly in the sea breeze. Somewhere nearby, a fisherman hums a wordless tune, a melody passed down through generations, sung not for an audience, but for the quiet company of the waves. Together, you and Alaric walk along the harbour's edge. The cobblestones glisten faintly from the afternoon tide. Children run barefoot through the alleys, chasing the last rays of sunlight. The air carries the faint aroma of baked fish and wood smoke, mingled with the sharper tang of salt. Seagulls perch on roof beams, their silhouettes framed against the softening sky. Alaric stops near a small shop, a humble building with faded blue shutters, and the scent of parchment and oil ink drifting through the open window. Inside, an elderly man tends to rows of scrolls and ledgers stacked in perfect order. He looks up as Alaric enters, recognition lighting his features. They greet each other in low voices, the kind used between friends who share a long memory. The shopkeeper pours warm tea from a clay pot, the steam curling gently into the air. The three of you sit at a worn wooden table. The harbour hums softly outside. Footsteps, waves, the distant call of a night watchman preparing his lanterns. Alaric unrolls one of his scrolls and begins to read quietly, his tone steady and calm. The old man listens, nodding. You listen too, your breathing slowing to the same rhythm as the story. The scroll speaks of ancient travellers who once stood in this same harbour, sailors who charted the unknown, monks who recorded tides and constellations, families who sent loved ones across the sea, never knowing if they would return. Their voices, though long faded, seem to live in the stones beneath your feet. As Alaric's words unfold, you can almost hear them. Faint murmurs carried by the wind, joining the endless symphony of water and wood. When he finishes, the old man smiles and places a hand over Alaric's. "Keep writing," he says softly. "The world forgets quickly, but paper remembers." The words linger in the air long after you leave the shop. Outside, dusk has deepened. The harbour now glows in soft hues of violet and gold. Lanterns flicker on every post, their reflections dancing gently across the water's surface. The sky fades into a tapestry of stars, one by one appearing over the masts like celestial candles. The sea hums beneath it all, an ancient sound that feels both endless and intimate. You and Alaric walk along the outer pier. The voices around you grow softer now, merchants closing stalls, sailors speaking in hushed tones, footsteps echoing against the stone. A cat slips between crates, disappearing into the shadows. Somewhere, a lute begins to play, its melody simple, circular, and tender. The notes drift through the evening air like threads of memory. Alaric stops near the end of the pier, where the water meets the sky in seamless blue. He sits down, resting his satchel beside him. You do the same, feeling the rough wood under your palms and the cool mist against your skin. The world has grown impossibly still. You can hear everything. Every whisper of wind, every sigh of the tide, every distant call fading into silence. For a while, neither of you speak. You watch as a ship drifts slowly from the harbour, its sails catching the last light. It moves gracefully, leaving a faint ripple that shimmers long after it's gone. Every journey begins like that, Alaric murmurs, almost to himself. Quietly, with trust, you turn toward him. The lantern light catches the side of his face, revealing calm eyes and a faint, thoughtful smile. His life is simple, yet filled with a quiet purpose: to record, to remember, to bear witness to the gentle passing of time. You realize that history, in its truest form, is not a story of wars or rulers, but of moments like this, soft, fleeting, yet eternal. The tide shifts slightly, rocking the dock in a slow rhythm. Above, stars shimmer brighter now, mirrored in the black glass of the sea. The music from the distant lute fades, replaced by the hollow calls of night birds. The village behind you settles into slumber, doors closing softly, fires dimming, voices retreating to dreams. Alaric closes his eyes, breathing deeply. The sound of the sea fills the silence between you. He speaks quietly, his words almost lost in the wind. The harbour remembers all who've come and gone. The sailors, the scribes, the ones who waited. The sea keeps their echoes, so none are ever truly gone. You listen, and for a moment, you feel as though you can hear those echoes. Faint and beautiful, blending with the rhythm of your heartbeat. The night deepens. The lanterns sway gently in the breeze. The stars above seem to lean closer, their light reflected in Alaric's ink-stained hands. The harbour breathes, slow, eternal, alive. And as you sit there beside him, you realize that this stillness, this quiet between worlds, is where history sleeps. Not in dusty tomes, but in moments like these, in the hush of the tide, the whisper of parchment, the lingering scent of salt on the wind. The journey isn't over. The night is young, and the sea, patient as ever, waits to tell its story. Night arrives slowly, as though the world itself exhales. The last threads of sunlight fade behind the hills, and the harbour sinks into shades of indigo and silver. The air grows cooler, touched with the scent of salt and rain. One by one, lanterns flicker to life along the waterfront, their lights swaying in the soft wind, small circles of gold trembling against the vastness of the dark. You and Alaric linger at the edge of the pier. The tide whispers against the stones below, each wave carrying with it a faint hiss, like a lullaby meant for the sea itself. The wooden planks beneath your feet are cool now, damp with mist. From somewhere deep within the harbour, the low sound of a horn echoes once, slow, resonant, and full of memory. Alaric pulls his cloak tighter around his shoulders. The night has its own kind of language, he murmurs. Not spoken, but felt. You nod quietly. The world has grown still enough to hear it. The distant murmur of waves, the flutter of sails resting against their masts, the gentle hum of life winding down. The marketplace is dark now. The voices have vanished. The scent of bread and smoke has given way to the clean chill of evening air. A pair of watchmen make their way down the pier. Their boots sound soft and measured, each step accompanied by the creak of leather and the faint clink of metal. They carry lanterns, wide round vessels of glass and brass, the flames within moving like captive stars. As they pass, they nod to Alaric, their faces hidden in shadow. The light spills briefly across your path, glinting off the smooth surface of the scroll case he carries. You follow the watchman's progress as they move away, their light growing fainter until it becomes just another shimmer among the many that line the docks. Above, the stars begin to emerge fully. First one, then a handful, then entire constellations scattered like ancient runes written across the sky. Their reflection shimmers in the harbour water, the sea and sky folding into one another until you can no longer tell where one ends and the other begins. Alaric walks toward a small stone wall overlooking the bay. He sits there, setting down his satchel beside him. You join him, the rough stone cool beneath your hands. From here, you can see the curve of the shoreline, the ships resting like great sleeping beasts, the lanterns glowing like fireflies caught in their rigging, the faint lines of smoke drifting from chimneys on the hill. For a long time, there is silence, a silence not of emptiness, but of peace, the kind that hums gently in the bones. Alaric reaches into his satchel and draws out one of his scrolls. The parchment rustles softly, its surface glowing pale under the moonlight. He opens a small vial of ink and dips his quill. The motion is slow, deliberate, sacred. You watch him write. His hand moves gracefully, tracing letters that curve like the flow of the river. The scratching of the quill against parchment mingles with the rhythm of the sea. Two sounds that feel impossibly alike, both endless and soothing. What are you writing? You ask softly, though your voice feels almost out of place in the hush. Nothing that history will remember, he says with a faint smile. Only what the night tells me. He writes about what he's seen, the people of the market, the sound of the river, the faces in the harbour light. But his words are not records of fact. They are gestures of remembrance, shaped from the quiet beauty of ordinary life. He writes of mothers tending fires, of children's laughter fading down stone streets, of watchmen's lanterns swaying gently in the wind. He writes of peace, the rare kind found not in silence but in understanding. As he works, you lean back and gaze at the sky. Clouds drift lazily across the moon, their edges painted silver. A faint chill touches your face. Somewhere across the harbour, a door closes with a soft thud, followed by the muffled sound of someone humming a lullaby. The melody floats out over the water, blending with the night until it becomes part of the sea's rhythm. Alaric pauses to dip his quill again. His handwriting is neat but tender, each stroke precise yet alive. We think the world changes, he says quietly, not looking up. But it's the same river that flows through all our days, the same stars, the same longing. We just forget how to listen. His words settle over you like a blanket. You close your eyes and let the sounds of the harbour fill the space between your breaths. The sigh of ropes shifting in their moorings, the occasional splash of a fish breaking the surface, the whisper of distant waves against the rocks. When you open your eyes again, Alaric has stopped writing. He gazes out over the water, the moonlight silvering his features. His scroll rests on his lap, the ink still glistening faintly. It's finished, he says softly. For tonight at least. He rolls up the parchment and ties it carefully with twine. Then he places it beside the others in his satchel. You can feel the weight of those stories, small pieces of time, preserved in ink and patience. He writes not for fame or for future scholars, but because the act itself keeps the world from slipping into silence. A soft wind stirs. The lanterns flicker. The waves move with slow rhythmic grace. You realize how easily this moment could have been lost. Just another night, another tide, another quiet soul sitting by the sea. And yet, through Alaric's eyes, it becomes eternal. He turns toward you and smiles, the kind of smile that holds no words, only understanding. The watchman's lanterns swing faintly in the distance, their light tracing soft arcs across the pier. The stars shimmer above them, infinite and watchful. You should rest, Alaric says gently. The world will still be here when you wake. You nod. Your eyelids feel heavier now. The air is soft, cool, full of the scent of salt and ink. The harbour hums quietly around you, a cradle made of sound and memory. You hear the sea, steady and eternal. You hear the faint scrape of quill against parchment, one last note before silence. Somewhere in the distance, a bell tolls once, then twice. The echo rolls across the water, slow and deep, fading into the night like a breath released. You lie back against the stone, watching the sky dissolve into endless blue-black. Alaric's lantern glows beside you, its light dim but warm. His shadow moves softly, like the memory of a story still being told. And as your eyes begin to close, the harbour fades. The stars, the sea, the whisper of ink on paper. All that remains is the rhythm of your breath, slow and even, merging with the sound of the tide. The world sleeps. History sleeps. You sleep. The night settles deeper over the harbour, turning gold into blue and sound into hush. You and Alaric rise from the edge of the pier, leaving behind the glimmering reflection of lanterns swaying on the dark water. The air feels softer now, touched by salt and memory. As you walk away from the sea, the sound of waves fades into the rhythm of your footsteps along the narrow cobblestone streets. Each stone beneath your feet holds centuries of stories. The houses lean close together, their wooden shutters half closed as though guarding ancient secrets. Somewhere far above, a window creaks open, and the faint murmur of a lullaby drifts through the cool night air. The melody is low and slow, the kind sung to children when the world outside is too large to understand. Alaric walks a few steps ahead, his lantern lighting the way. The flame flickers against the stone walls, turning cracks and carvings into living shadows. This city, he says softly, was built by hands that never rushed. They knew that beauty belonged to patience. You listen to his words as the path begins to widen. The narrow streets give way to an open courtyard bathed in pale light. At its centre stands a great temple, serene, timeless, carved from white stone that glows faintly under the moon. Pillars rise on all sides, their surfaces engraved with spirals and symbols, the language of a world that once believed every word could shape reality. A long pool stretches before the temple, still as glass. The moon lies upon it, like a coin resting in a calm hand. You and Alaric stand at its edge, the cool mist brushing against your skin. The only sound is the faint rustle of leaves and the whisper of water touching the marble rim. Alaric lowers his lantern slightly. The scribes once came here before dawn, he says. They copied the old texts by lamplight, believing that writing was not to create, but to remember. You step closer to the pool, watching the reflection tremble as a breeze passes. The faint scent of frankincense lingers in the air, mixed with the earthy smell of stone. 1,000 candles once burned here, you imagine, lighting faces bent over parchment, steady hands tracing words that have long outlived them. As you enter the temple, the silence grows dense and deep. The stone beneath your feet carries the echo of centuries. Shadows sway along the walls, alive in the candlelight that remains, not from this age, but from memory itself. The walls are carved with lines of text in a script that seems to flow like water. Alaric runs his hand across the letters, his fingertips tracing their ancient curves. They wrote of time, he murmurs, of how every life is a ripple across an endless sea. At the far end stands a statue, tall, serene, carved from marble that glows with a faint inner warmth. A woman with a lamp raised in her hand. Her gaze is calm, her posture still, as though she has been waiting for your arrival. She was known as the keeper of quiet hours, Alaric says. It was believed she guarded the moments when the world pauses, between dusk and dawn, between memory and dream. You gaze at the statue, feeling the truth of his words. The air hums faintly, almost like breath. It is as if the temple itself is alive, not with people, but with thought, waiting patiently through centuries for someone to listen. Alaric takes one of his scrolls from his satchel and lays it gently upon the altar. He bows his head, whispering words too soft to hear. When he looks up again, his eyes are calm. Every word written here, he says, was meant to outlast its writer. That is the promise of memory. The light flickers once more, then steadies. You turn to leave, the sound of your steps echoing softly through the great hall. Behind you, the statue remains, a silent guardian of all that time has not erased. Outside, the night feels different. The stars seem brighter, the wind gentler, as if the world itself had exhaled. The city lies below, quiet and content beneath the silver sky. You and Alaric stand for a moment at the temple steps, breathing in the stillness before continuing onward, your journey stretching deeper into the sleeping world. The road descends gently from the temple, winding through olive groves that whisper with the faint rustle of leaves. The air grows cooler as you walk, touched by the scent of earth and flowing water. Far below, the sound of a river murmurs through the valley, soft and steady, like the heartbeat of the land itself. When you reach its banks, the moonlight lies across the surface in trembling ribbons of silver. The water moves slowly, carrying the reflections of stars as though the sky itself were drifting downstream. Alaric kneels by the edge, letting his fingers touch the surface. Ripples spread outward, bending the stars into soft circles of light. This river, he says, has seen everything: the rise of cities, the fall of kings, the quiet work of time, yet it never changes its song. You sit beside him, the grass cool against your palms. Fireflies drift lazily over the reeds, their glow pulsing in gentle rhythm. The air is filled with the scent of cedar and river mist. Alaric begins to tell you stories, not from the books he carries, but from memory. Stories that seem to belong to the night itself. He speaks of a mason who built bridges so perfectly that travelers believed they were blessed. Of a young woman who once followed the river for weeks, chasing the reflection of a single star. Of an old scribe who came here each night to speak to the water, convinced it would remember his words even after the ink had faded. They all lived small lives, Alaric says softly, yet each left ripples that never vanished. That's the truth of history. It isn't written only in palaces and wars, but in the quiet persistence of ordinary souls. You watch the current flow, slow and unbroken. It seems endless, a living thread tying the past to the present. Somewhere upstream, a heron lifts from the water, its wings gliding silently through the mist. The rhythm of the river begins to lull your thoughts. Time loosens its hold, and the boundaries between centuries blur. You feel as though the river is carrying not just reflections, but moments, drifting fragments of every life that once touched its shores. Alaric's voice fades for a while. The two of you sit in silence, listening to the night breathe. The sound of flowing water becomes everything, a soft, continuous whisper that fills your chest, your thoughts, your dreams. When you finally rise, the world feels lighter. The stars shimmer across the surface of the river, and for an instant, you're unsure whether they belong to the sky or to the earth below. You follow the river until you reach a narrow bridge of weathered wood. The planks creak gently beneath your feet, echoing into the stillness. From the center, the water stretches out in both directions, carrying twin reflections of the moon. Alaric stops beside you and looks upward. Long ago, he says, travelers called the stars the lamps of the lost. They believed the heavens were not above us, but around us, that every star was the memory of a soul who had found its way home. You tilt your head back, and the sky unfolds. Vast and endless, scattered with light, the stars shimmer like ancient ink scattered across black parchment. The constellations form faint shapes, the outlines of myths that have guided generations. The same stars, Alaric continues, once led ships across oceans and shepherds across plains. Even kings, in their high towers, looked to them when they felt small. His voice drifts slowly, each word carrying a calm weight. The night feels infinite, but kind, as though the universe itself is keeping watch. A faint breeze moves through the reeds below. The bridge sways slightly, a cradle suspended between two worlds. The moonlight rests on Alaric's face, and you realize how timeless he seems, part of the story, and yet its teller. He turns to you and smiles faintly. Every era believes it is the last to see beauty, he says. But beauty never ends, it only changes shape. You both stand there in silence, listening to the river, the stars, the soft hum of the night. There is no rush, no noise, no boundary between the waking world and the dream. The first faint glow of dawn begins to edge the horizon. It is not yet morning, just a whisper of light, a promise. Alaric closes his eyes and takes a long breath. Before the sun returns, he says, the world belongs to dreamers. That is when the past speaks most clearly. You breathe with him, slow and deep. The stars fade gently, their light sinking into the river's mirror. The bridge creaks once more, and then all falls still. For a long moment, you stand between worlds, the sky above, the water below, and history all around you, breathing, remembering, waiting. The night stretches long and endless, draped across the quiet world like a soft velvet curtain. The air feels hushed, thick with the scent of olive and damp stone, carrying the faint sigh of the river beyond the city walls. You walk beside Alaric, the young scribe whose voice has guided you through this ancient land. His steps are slow, unhurried, as if each footfall is measured not in distance but in memory. Above, the moon hangs low, round and luminous, the colour of old parchment touched by silver. It seems to follow you both, weaving its light across the worn path. The stars shimmer faintly, scattered across the sky like forgotten words written on a page of night. The wind carries with it the murmur of unseen waters and the distant creak of wooden beams from sleeping homes. Do you hear it? Alaric asks softly, his tone no louder than a thought. The city never truly sleeps. Even when its people rest, the stones remember. You listen beneath the faint rustle of leaves and the murmur of the river. There is indeed another sound. Subtle, almost hidden. It is the echo of the past, a rhythm of footsteps that once filled these streets, of laughter that has long faded, but somehow still lingers in the cracks of the walls. The city breathes in the same slow rhythm as your own. Inhale, exhale, as though all of history were quietly dreaming. Alaric tilts his head toward the faint glow of the horizon where the city rests. Once this place was filled with life, he says. Children ran through the alleys with bread still warm in their hands. Traders called out their prices in voices that carried all the way to the harbour. And when night came, families gathered by the fires to talk, to listen, to dream. His words drift through the air like smoke, curling into the cool night. The imagery unfolds in your mind. Women lighting candles in small clay lamps, the flicker of flames casting shadows on old stone walls, the scent of earth and bread mingling in the air. For a moment, you can almost hear the hum of voices again, the soft rhythm of life that once moved through these narrow streets. But now, the only light is that of the moon. The only sound is the whisper of time. Alaric stops by a low stone wall, placing his hand upon it. His fingertips trace the cracks that run across its surface. This wall, he murmurs, has heard more prayers than any book could ever hold. People spoke to it, to the silence beyond it, and their words stayed here, caught in the pores of the stone. You reach out and touch the wall too. It feels cool beneath your fingers, but alive somehow, as though the centuries stored within it still hum faintly beneath the surface. There's a strange comfort in that realization, that even when all else is gone, the memory of existence remains, quietly preserved in the bones of the world. Alaric smiles faintly. History, he says, is not made of kings or empires. It's made of the small things. The sound of a quill scratching parchment, the crackle of firewood, the whisper of someone saying goodnight. His words linger, soft and true. The world around you seems to slow further, as if time itself has begun to exhale. You notice how the air feels heavier now, but also warmer, filled with the scent of the river drifting through reeds. Somewhere in the distance, a nightbird calls once and then falls silent. The moment stretches like a thread, delicate and golden. The moonlight spills across the path as the two of you continue your walk. The city fades into the background, a shadow of stone and memory, until all that remains is the sound of your footsteps and the low, steady rhythm of the water nearby. Alaric pauses again, this time by the riverbank. The current glows faintly, a ribbon of liquid silver winding through the dark. He kneels, scooping a handful of water into his palm. All that we love, he says, his voice barely above a whisper, returns to the current. Nothing is truly lost, only carried forward. The water slips through his fingers and falls back into the flow, catching the moonlight in 1,000 tiny sparks. The ripples spread slowly, breaking the reflection of the stars. You watch them fade one by one until the surface stills again. You sit beside him, your body growing heavier, more relaxed. The sound of the water soothes the mind, steady, eternal, unhurried. You take a slow breath, and the scent of night fills your lungs. The clean, cool air of stone and river, of stories untold. In this moment, you feel it clearly, the deep connection between all that has been and all that is. Every heartbeat that ever echoed in these streets still vibrates faintly in the air. Every whisper, every song, Every quiet prayer has joined the great current of time that flows beneath all things. Alaric looks at you, eyes soft with knowing. The world remembers, he says. Even if we forget, it holds our place in its gentle rhythm. That is why we tell stories, not to keep the past alive, but to keep ourselves from being forgotten. You gaze up once more. The stars seem closer now, their light weaving silver threads through the darkness. Each one feels like a tiny lantern, keeping vigil over the sleeping world. The silence between them feels sacred, as though the night itself were listening. The river hums its endless song beside you, the earth cool beneath your palms. You can feel your thoughts drifting, not away from the story, but deeper into it. It's as though the boundary between the present and the past has dissolved, and you're walking not beside Alaric, but through his memories, through time itself. Somewhere in that stillness, you realize something beautiful. History, in its truest form, is a lullaby. It hums softly beneath every stone and sighs through every branch. It's the sound of all who lived and loved, gently whispering across the centuries, asking only to be remembered. The moon climbs higher, silver and solemn. The air cools slightly, wrapping you in its quiet touch. Alaric stands, his silhouette bathed in pale light. Come, he says softly. There's more to see before dawn, but don't rush. Tonight, even time moves slowly. You rise, your body light, your mind calm. Together you walk deeper into the quiet, the rhythm of the river fading behind you. The world feels vast, ancient, and endlessly kind. A peaceful sea of memory under the watchful glow of the stars. And in that calm, as your steps fall gently upon the path, the voice of history continues its tender song. A relaxing history sleep story that carries you further into stillness, toward rest, toward dreams. The city greets you once more, though now it feels different. Hushed, distant, like a dream half remembered upon waking. A thin veil of mist drapes over the rooftops, softening the sharp lines of stone and timber. The stars are dimming, and the faint blush of dawn hides at the edge of the sky, waiting for its moment to rise. You and Alaric walk side by side through the quiet streets. The air carries the faint smell of wood smoke and rain, and each step echoes softly between the narrow walls. The cobblestones, worn smooth by centuries of passage, gleam faintly under the moon's last light. This was once the heart of it all, Alaric says quietly, where stories were traded like bread, freely, joyfully, where people found warmth not just in the fire, but in each other. You pass beneath an archway carved long ago, its edges softened by time. Beyond it lies the old market square, vast, open and bathed in the pale glow of fading starlight. Stalls stand empty, their wooden frames leaning slightly as though tired from years of use. But even in their stillness, they seem alive, as if the air remembers the life that once filled this place. You close your eyes for a moment, and the silence transforms. Suddenly, you can almost hear them, the faint echoes of laughter, the clinking of metal, the low murmur of 100 voices weaving together into the hum of the living city. The smell of baked bread seems to drift through the mist. The sound of hooves clatters softly on stone. Alaric smiles faintly. Every city has its soul, he murmurs. Even when the people are gone, the soul remains, patient, gentle, waiting for someone to listen again. You move closer to the fountain at the center of the square. Its basin holds only the night's rainwater now, but in the moonlight, it shimmers like a pool of memory. The carved figures that once poured water from urns now stand frozen, their faces smooth with time. Alaric kneels beside it, brushing his fingers along the rim. This was where they gathered, he says softly. Mothers bringing their children to wash their hands before supper. Old men with stories too long to fit into the daylight. Musicians, lovers, and wanderers, all passing through the same place, all leaving something behind. He dips his fingers into the water and lets the ripples spread slowly outward. Even silence remembers, he whispers. You gaze into the water, watching as the ripples shimmer in slow, widening rings. For a heartbeat, you see faces, faint, fleeting, like reflections caught between worlds. A child laughing, a merchant smiling, a woman leaning to speak softly to her friend. Each vision fades almost as quickly as it appears, but the feeling remains, a quiet warmth, a connection to all those who once stood here. Time doesn't erase, Alaric says. It folds. The laughter of yesterday still lingers in the air. We just have to listen softly enough to hear it. A breeze stirs the mist, curling it through the square like breath through dream. It carries with it the smell of herbs and ash, of bread once baked in brick ovens that now stand cold. The streets around you feel endless, stretching back not only in distance but in memory. You and Alaric walk slowly past the old stalls, your footsteps making a rhythm that feels both ancient and familiar. The wooden beams creak softly in the breeze, as though whispering greetings to the returning night. At the edge of the square, a single lantern hangs from an iron hook. Its glass is cracked, its wick long extinguished. Yet somehow, as you pass beneath it, it seems to glow faintly, not with fire, but with remembrance. You pause, gazing up at it, feeling an inexplicable peace settle over you. This city, Alaric says, his voice no more than a breath, was not built for kings or wars. It was built for evenings like this, for stories told beneath soft light, for quiet hearts to find one another in the dark. His words linger, heavy and kind. You feel their truth, that history is not in the battles fought or empires raised, but in the calm between them. It's in the way a mother hums to her child, in how a craftsman shapes his work with patient hands, in the soft, ordinary beauty of life as it once was. The streets narrow again as you leave the square. The walls rise high, almost touching above you. The air grows cooler, denser, filled with the quiet sound of dripping water. You can smell the faint sweetness of jasmine climbing the stones, its white flowers glowing faintly in the moonlight. The silence deepens. It's not the silence of emptiness, but of memory, a peace that hums faintly with the presence of those who came before. Alaric turns to you, his expression thoughtful. Do you ever wonder, he asks, what it means to be remembered? You nod slowly. He smiles. To be remembered, he says, is not to be spoken of. It's to be felt in moments like this, when the world grows still enough to let the past breathe again. You let his words settle in the air between you. The mist curls around your ankles like smoke. Somewhere far away, a dog barks once and falls silent again. The world feels suspended, caught between centuries, between waking and dream. As you walk on, the streets open once more into a small courtyard. The stones here are uneven, covered in moss. In the corner stands a broken statue, its face worn smooth, its form softened by the passing of rain and time. Yet even so, it carries a certain grace, as though still aware of its purpose. Alaric touches the statue gently. They made this to honor their faith, he says. But faith too changes shape. Sometimes it becomes stone. Sometimes it becomes silence. You step closer and notice that beneath the statue, someone once carved a single word. The letters are nearly gone, erased by weather, but you can still make out the faint outline. Home. You and Alaric stand quietly before it. The word seems to echo in the stillness, soft, comforting, eternal. Though these streets are silent now, Alaric whispers, they once carried laughter and life beneath this same starlit sky. The mist thickens. The dawn waits at the horizon, still hidden but near. The air feels heavy with peace, like a long sigh at the end of a song. You take one final look around the city, its empty streets, its sleeping walls, its unseen memories, and feel your heart grow lighter. Everything you've seen tonight feels less like a place and more like a dream. A story told by time itself to soothe the restless mind. Alaric turns toward you and nods softly. Come, he says. There is a hill beyond the walls where we can watch the morning arrive. It's where the city breathes its last dream before the day begins. You follow him, your steps slow, your eyelids heavy. The city fades behind you, its echoes soft as breath. As you walk into the mist, the air grows warmer, and your thoughts drift like leaves on a still pond. Slow, weightless, at peace, the city sleeps once more, and so do you. The road leading out of the city winds gently upward, its stones cool beneath your feet. Mist lingers like breath across the valley, and the air carries the faint scent of rain and soil, the kind that feels both new and ancient at once. The night is soft now, its darkness loosening like a thread unraveling into dawn. Beside you, Alaric walks in silence, his satchel of scrolls resting against his side. The faint sound of parchment brushing leather mixes with the quiet rhythm of your steps. Neither of you speak for a long while. The stillness between you feels sacred, as though words might break the fragile peace of the hour. At last, you reach a hill that overlooks the valley below, the same valley where rivers wind like silver veins through the earth, where the faint shapes of roofs and spires shimmer beneath the thinning mist. From here the whole city seems to exhale. It looks less like a place and more like a memory, breathing softly in its sleep. Alaric sets down his satchel and sits beneath a lone olive tree. Its leaves shimmer faintly with dew, whispering softly as the wind passes through them. You join him, lowering yourself into the cool grass. The ground is damp and comforting. The smell of the earth fills your lungs with every slow breath. For a while there is only silence, the kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, but full, heavy with unseen meaning. A bird stirs somewhere in the branches above, fluttering once, then stills again. The first pale light of dawn edges along the horizon, brushing faint gold into the blue. It's strange, Alaric murmurs finally, his voice quiet and thoughtful. How the world feels so new every morning, yet it has never truly changed. These same hills, this same sky, they've watched countless dawns, countless lives, all rising and fading like waves upon the shore. He looks out across the valley, his eyes reflecting the faint light. When I was younger, he continues, I used to believe that history was made by great men, kings, warriors, conquerors, but I was wrong. It's made by moments like this, by silence, by the way the air smells before sunrise, by the dreams of those who lived quietly. You watch as he opens one of his scrolls and lays it across his knees. The parchment is old, its edges worn soft from years of travel. Symbols and sketches fill the surface, pieces of a world once living, now captured in ink. He traces a line gently with his finger, then closes it again, sighing. Sometimes I think history is not something we write, he says, but something that writes us. We are only the ink it uses. The wind stirs again, carrying the soft scent of the city, stone, smoke, and river. You can almost hear faint sounds carried on it. The echo of footsteps, a door closing, the low hum of a marketplace waking in another time. But they fade quickly, replaced by the quiet pulse of morning. Alaric leans back against the tree and closes his eyes. Sleep, he murmurs half to himself. That's where history lives now, in sleep. Every dream we have is just another story remembering itself. You look toward the horizon where the light is growing stronger. The clouds there glow faintly, turning the sky into a slow-moving sea of pale fire. You can feel your breath slow to match its rhythm. The world seems to breathe with you. A single endless exhale. The olive leaves shimmer again. The air feels heavy and tender. The moment stretches until you can no longer tell whether you are awake or drifting into something softer. Alaric's voice returns, slow and distant. Do you know what I've learned after all these years of writing? You open your eyes slightly, meeting his calm gaze. He smiles faintly. That no story truly ends, it simply changes hands. What one heart remembers, another will someday dream. He reaches into his satchel and takes out a small object wrapped in linen, a piece of broken pottery, the glaze still faintly blue. He places it on the ground between you. This was once part of a cup, he says quietly. Someone drank from it, perhaps laughed, perhaps cried. Then it broke and time buried it. But now it's found again. Its story continues, even if no one knows the name of the one who first held it. You look at the shard, its surface catching the new light. It glows softly, almost alive. You realize that even the smallest fragment holds entire worlds inside it. That memory, like clay, never truly turns to dust. The first rays of sunlight spill across the valley now. The mist thins, drifting upward in lazy curls. The river below catches the light, gleaming like polished glass. The city's rooftops glow faintly, each tile touched with gold. Alaric stands, brushing dew from his robes. His expression is peaceful, the kind of calm that comes from understanding that everything, in the end, belongs to the same eternal rhythm. He turns to you. Look, he says softly. How the world awakens. It's as though every dawn forgives the night that came before. You rise with him, your limbs heavy but light, your body relaxed, your mind quiet. Together, you stand in silence as the sun edges above the horizon. The warmth touches your face, soft and slow, melting the coolness of the night. You close your eyes, breathing it in. The smell of grass, the taste of morning, the hum of a world beginning again. Alaric's voice drifts through the golden air, quieter now, as if speaking from within a dream. When the world grows still. Enough, he says. You can hear the heartbeat of the past beneath your own. It never fades. It only sleeps. The words linger long after he falls silent. The wind softens, brushing your skin like a whisper. A sense of peace settles deep within you. Not just the peace of quiet, but the peace of knowing that nothing truly ends, that every breath, every moment, every story continues somewhere, gently waiting to be remembered again. The sun rises higher, the hills shimmer, and you realize that even as this night fades, it has already become part of history. A small, quiet memory, sleeping beneath the dawn. Your eyes grow heavy. The warmth of the sun wraps around you like a blanket. Alaric sits once more beneath the olive tree, his quill resting in his hand. Rest now, he murmurs, his voice almost lost to the wind. Let the world turn without you for a while. You've walked far enough through its dreams. And so you do. You let your breath slow, your body sink deeper into stillness. The world fades into light and sound, bird song, river song, heartbeat. And in that fading, in that hush, you understand what Alaric meant. History never ends, it only sleeps. The sun has risen higher now, warm and golden, but still gentle, like an old friend who knows not to wake you too suddenly. The air carries a soft hum of life returning. Distant bells ring faintly from the valley below, and the morning breeze whispers through the olive trees like a hymn half remembered from another age. You stand at the crest of the hill, beside Alaric, watching the light unfold across the sleeping city. The rooftops glitter with dew. Smoke rises from chimneys in curling ribbons, slow and serene, as though the town itself is stretching after a long, peaceful dream. Alaric turns to you, his expression calm, his eyes reflecting the same light that now floods the earth. Do you see, he says softly, how the world never truly wakes all at once? Some parts linger in sleep a little longer, just enough to keep the memory of night alive. You smile faintly. You can feel that in yourself too, that gentle resistance to wakefulness, that wish to remain within the quiet rhythm of night. The warmth of the sun rests on your shoulders, and every breath feels like it carries centuries of calm within it. Alaric begins walking slowly down the path that leads toward the river. You follow, your steps soft against the soil. The path winds between low stone walls and tall golden grass that sways gently in the breeze. Each blade catches the sunlight like glass, bending and shining in its own rhythm. Below, the river glimmers like a ribbon of light. It winds through the valley with unhurried grace, reflecting the sky in slow rippling fragments. Birds trace lazy circles above it. Somewhere in the distance, you can hear the soft toll of a mill wheel turning, an ancient sound, timeless and patient. As you walk, Alaric speaks again. In every age, he says, there are those who live quietly beside the water. Farmers, scribes, dreamers. They leave no monuments, no battles, no crowns. But without them, history would have no pulse. He pauses, touching a wildflower blooming beside the path. Its petals are pale and trembling, still wet from the morning dew. The world remembers those who ruled, he continues, but it is shaped by those who simply lived. You listen, in silence, your gaze following the curve of the river as it disappears into the trees. You imagine the people who once walked here, children carrying baskets of grain, women washing linen in the shallows, men guiding wooden boats downstream. Their laughter, their voices, their songs, all now threads in the great tapestry of forgotten sound. The two of you reach the riverbank. The water is shallow here, flowing over smooth stones that catch the sunlight like tiny stars. Alaric kneels, scoops a handful of water, and lets it trickle slowly through his fingers. This river, he says, has carried every generation before us. It has seen empires rise and fade. It has reflected the faces of those long gone. Yet it never stops. It only flows. He smiles faintly and looks at you. Perhaps we are the same, carried by time, changing shape, but never truly lost. You sit beside him, letting your hand trail lightly in the water. The coolness touches your skin and anchors you in the moment, not in the past, not in the future, but here, where everything feels eternal. The sound of the river is steady and slow, the perfect rhythm for sleep and memory alike. A family of ducks drifts past, their reflections shimmering like watercolor. One of them quacks softly, and Alaric chuckles, a quiet, low sound that blends perfectly with the morning air. "Do you know what I once believed?" he asks, leaning back on his hands. "That history was meant to be read like a scroll, line after line, event after event. But now I think it's more like this river. It twists, it forgets, it finds its way again. And sometimes it returns to where it began. The thought lingers in the air between you, gentle and weightless. You look across the water and imagine the past rippling beneath its surface. The shadows of boats, torches flickering on its banks. The faces of those who once stood where you now sit. The sunlight deepens, and the sound of the river begins to blend with something softer. The faint hum of insects, the sigh of the breeze through reeds, the heartbeat of the land itself. Everything feels as though it is breathing in perfect harmony. Alaric lies back in the grass, his hands behind his head. His voice is barely above a whisper now. "We spend our lives trying to make sense of the world," he says. "But sometimes the most peaceful thing we can do is stop trying." You nod, even though your eyes are growing heavy. The light on the river dances. The world around you blurs slightly at the edges. The sound of flowing water seems to come from within you now, not beyond. Alaric's voice reaches you again, faint and melodic. "Do you ever wonder," he asks, "how many mornings have looked exactly like this one? How many souls have stood here and watched the same light, felt the same wind, dreamed the same dreams?" You murmur softly, "Perhaps all of them still do." He smiles, eyes closed. "Yes," he says, "perhaps they never left." The warmth of the sun deepens. The hum of the earth seems to cradle you, like the rhythm of an old lullaby. Every thought slows, every breath melts into the next. For a long while, there is only the sound of the river, ancient, endless, patient. And as you listen, you realize that this river is not just water, not just history. It is time itself, flowing gently, carrying every story ever told, every whisper ever spoken, toward the horizon where the sky and memory meet. Alaric's final words for the morning drift softly through the quiet. "Rest a while," he murmurs, "for the river will carry our story too." Softly, endlessly, into the light between eras. And so you do. You rest, you breathe. The light fades softly behind your eyelids, and the world around you becomes sound, air, and calm. A sleep story within history, and history within sleep. The river's voice lingers long after you close your eyes. A soft, rippling hum that seems to echo from somewhere deep within the earth. You can still feel its rhythm beneath you, steady and patient, like the quiet heartbeat of history itself. The warmth of the morning light seeps through the air, golden and hazy, and the scent of wild mint drifts faintly from the nearby grass. When you open your eyes again, the world has shifted. The sun has climbed higher, and the air shimmers slightly in the growing heat. But the valley remains wrapped in calm. The city below has awakened fully now. Faint threads of smoke rising from hearths, voices murmuring in the distance, a faint clatter of wooden carts on stone. You and Alaric remain by the river's edge, watching the current drift lazily past. His scrolls rest beside him, and his hands are folded loosely in his lap. For a long while neither of you speak. There is no need. The silence feels full, like the world itself is speaking softly enough that you must simply listen. Finally, Alaric's voice breaks through, smooth and distant. When I was a young scribe, he says, I believed that every story needed to be finished. I would stay awake for nights, writing and rewriting until the ink dried and my hands ached. But then I realized, history never ends. It only fades quietly, like the sound of the river after dusk. He looks out across the water, eyes reflecting its slow light. What we remember, he continues, is not what truly happened, but how it felt. The warmth of a hearth, the weight of a book in one's hands, the way morning light fell across a wall. That's what endures. You nod slowly, watching a leaf spin in the current until it disappears beneath the ripples. Perhaps, you say softly, that's why we dream, to remember what memory itself has forgotten. Alaric smiles faintly. Yes, he murmurs, dreams are how history breathes. The wind stirs again, brushing through the reeds. Their soft whisper fills the air like the murmur of old voices. The kind that tell stories long after the world has stopped listening. You both rise and begin to walk again, following the river upstream. The landscape changes slowly, almost imperceptibly. Trees grow denser. The ground softens beneath your steps. You pass small stone bridges, the remains of what once might have been pathways between forgotten villages. Each bridge is covered in moss, its arches smooth and worn by time. As you walk beneath one, the sound of your footsteps echoes faintly, then fades, like the memory of laughter left behind in an empty room. Every step we take, Alaric says quietly, is upon the dust of countless lives. The world beneath us is layered with their stories, one atop another, endless and unseen. If you listen carefully, you can almost hear them. You pause for a moment, closing your eyes. The world seems to slow even further. Beneath the hum of the river, beneath the wind, you hear it, the faintest murmur, like thousands of whispers blending into one. Not frightening, but comforting, as though the past itself is humming a lullaby. When you open your eyes again, the light has softened. The sun filters through the trees now, scattering through the leaves like liquid gold. Dust motes drift lazily in the beams, floating and vanishing as though made of memory itself. You and Alaric stop at a clearing where the river widens into a still pool. The surface is perfectly smooth, reflecting the sky and the surrounding trees like a mirror. It feels as though you are standing between worlds, the one above and the one beneath. Alaric kneels and touches the water. This place, he says softly, was once where travellers stopped to rest. They believed the pool was sacred, that it reflected not the world, but the soul. Some said if you looked long enough, you could see the faces of those you'd loved and lost. He gestures toward it, inviting you closer. Look, he says gently, not with your eyes, with your quiet. You kneel beside him and gaze into the stillness. At first, you see only your reflection, blurred slightly by the soft ripples of the wind. But then slowly the shapes shift. The trees fade, replaced by faint images. People walking, laughing, carrying baskets, lighting lanterns at dusk. Scenes that feel familiar, though you've never lived them. For a moment, it feels as though the pool remembers everything. Every step, every story, every breath that has ever touched its surface. And then, as quickly as it came, the vision fades. Only your reflection remains, framed by sunlight and leaves. Alaric's voice returns, quiet but filled with warmth. Do you see now? The past is not gone. It rests here, just beneath the surface, waiting for someone gentle enough to listen. You smile faintly, your breath slow, your body heavy with calm. The soft hum of the world wraps around you again. Water, wind, memory. Alaric stands and looks toward the horizon, where the sky begins to shift once more. The color deepens, fading from gold to rose, from rose to soft violet. The day is ending, he says, and with it, the voices of the past will quiet again. The two of you begin walking back toward the hill. The air cools as evening approaches. Shadows stretch long across the path, and the first stars shimmer faintly above the treetops. You can feel a deep stillness settling, not just in the land, but within yourself. A stillness that feels ancient and safe. Every step feels slower, softer, like moving through a dream. As the last light fades, Alaric turns to you one final time before night falls completely. Remember, he whispers, that history never truly leaves us. It simply becomes quieter until someone chooses to listen again. You nod, your eyes heavy, your breath deep. The stars brighten above, one by one, until the sky becomes a river of its own. Endless, flowing, eternal. And as you close your eyes once more, you hear it again. The echo beneath the horizon. The soft hum of stories that never ended. The lullaby of a world still dreaming. Wonderful. The sun dips lower now, painting the horizon with shades of amber and rose. The valley, once bathed in golden light, begins to soften under the weight of twilight. A cool wind drifts from the east, carrying the faint scent of river reeds and old stone, the smell of history winding down into sleep. You and Alaric walk slowly back toward the city, your steps echoing lightly against the fading hum of the world. The distant rooftops gleam under the last rays of sunlight, then dim one by one, as though the city itself is closing its eyes. Somewhere, a bell tolls, deep and slow, each note dissolving into the evening air. Do you hear it? Alaric murmurs beside you, his voice gentle. That sound has marked the end of every day for hundreds of years. Even now, when most have forgotten its meaning, it still rings. For memory's sake, you listen carefully. The bell's resonance fades into a low, trembling hum. It feels like the heartbeat of the city, steady, ancient, unbroken. As the two of you enter the narrow streets again, the lamps begin to flicker to life. Their soft glow pools across the cobblestones, golden halos trembling in the wind. The streets are quieter now, only the faint murmur of voices through half-open doors, the rustle of linen, the occasional bark of a distant dog. Everything feels slower here. The world itself seems to exhale. Alaric walks with his hands clasped behind his back, his robes brushing against the stone. Do you ever wonder, he says softly, how many feet have walked these streets before us? How many lives unfolded beneath these same lamps? We walk through history as if through mist, never realizing how close the past truly is. You glance down at the ground. The cobblestones glisten faintly, worn smooth by centuries of passage. You imagine the traders, the poets, the lovers, their footsteps still echoing somewhere beneath the layers of time. A group of children runs past, laughing, their shadows stretching long in the lamplight. Their laughter fades around the corner, but its echo lingers, mingling with the hum of evening. Alaric smiles faintly. There, he says, that's what I mean. That sound, it could have come from 100 years ago or yesterday. Some things never leave the world. They only change shape. The two of you continue toward the heart of the city, where the streets open into a quiet square. At its center stands an ancient fountain, dry now, but still elegant. Its carved figures, angels, lions and vines, are worn smooth by time. Moss grows between the cracks, glowing faintly green in the fading light. Alaric approaches the fountain and traces a finger along one of the carvings. "This fountain once sang," he says softly. "Water poured from every spout. At night, the sound would carry through the entire city. People said it helped them sleep." He looks at you, eyes glimmering with the lamplight. Perhaps the city still remembers, even if its songs are silent. You stand together for a long moment, listening. Not for sound, but for memory. The square is still, except for the rustling of leaves and the faint chirp of crickets awakening in the shadows. The first stars appear overhead, faint and silver. Their light spills across the rooftops, catching on the edges of windows and chimneys. Somewhere nearby, a door creaks open and a woman's voice hums softly. An old lullaby sung to no one in particular. The melody drifts through the air like smoke, delicate and familiar. You can't understand the words, but you feel their meaning. Comfort, rest, belonging. Alaric closes his eyes. "Every city," he whispers, "has its lullabies. They are not written in books or scrolls. They live in voices, in wind, in silence. When the world grows quiet enough, you can still hear them. You listen deeply. The hum of the world around you seems to slow even more. The breeze softens. The stars multiply. The fountain's shadows stretch across the square, long and gentle. It feels as though time itself is folding, like the city is drifting backward, returning to the calm heartbeat of centuries past. The walls, the lamps, the stones, everything feels alive, whispering softly in its sleep. Alaric steps closer to the fountain and rests his hand upon its cool surface. "We live such brief lives," he murmurs, "but the world dreams endlessly. Every breath we take becomes part of that dream." You sit on the fountain's edge, feeling the chill of stone beneath your palms. The sky above deepens into velvet blue, and the stars shimmer like scattered embers. The city seems to hum now, faintly, rhythmically, like a slow lullaby being hummed by the earth itself. You can feel it in your chest, your breath, your pulse. "Perhaps," Alaric says after a long silence, "this is what eternity feels like. Not endlessness, but stillness. A moment that never quite fades." You glance at him. His eyes are closed, his face peaceful, illuminated by the soft gold of the lantern light. For a moment, he looks ageless, part of the very story he has spent his life preserving. The woman's song fades into the distance, carried away by the wind. The square grows even quieter, until all that remains is the whisper of leaves and the slow rhythm of your breathing. Somewhere in that stillness, the line between past and present blurs completely. You no longer know whether you are walking through history or dreaming it. The world feels suspended, calm, infinite, and tender. Alaric's voice reaches you one last time, barely audible. "Rest, traveller. The city will keep watch. The stories will wait." You close your eyes. The sound of the river returns faintly, blending with the hum of wind and memory. The air cools against your skin. The stars shimmer brighter. And as your breath deepens, the city, the ancient, forgotten city, drifts deeper into its dream, carrying you gently with it. The world grows still. The night settles softly. History sleeps again. Night has deepened, wrapping the forgotten city in a velvet hush. The streets are empty now, and every lamp flickers with a slow golden sigh. The fountain in the square stands silent, the stars reflected faintly in its dry basin like memories resting at the bottom of a dream. You sit still on the edge of the fountain, your eyes half closed, your breath quiet and unhurried. The air carries a cool sweetness now, the kind that arrives only in the hours before dawn. It smells faintly of stone, smoke, and something softer, something like peace. Alaric sits beside you, his scrolls tucked neatly beside his robes. He hasn't spoken for a long time. He seems to be listening, not to the world, but to the silence that rests beneath it. His gaze is fixed somewhere far beyond the stars, as though he's reading from a page that only he can see. Finally, his voice returns, low and tender, as though he's speaking from within the dream itself. Every city, he says, has two lives, one that wakes beneath the sun, and one that dreams beneath the moon. When the day ends, it doesn't truly disappear. It simply turns into memory, the second life of all things. You turn toward him, and his expression is illuminated faintly by starlight. His eyes carry both weariness and wonder, the kind of calm found only in those who have learned to live between past and present. The night, he continues, is not an ending, it's an archive, a place where all that once was still quietly exists. The footsteps of travelers, the sound of laughter, the words never written, they all rest here. You listen, breathing slowly, feeling the truth of his words settle deep within you. Around you, the city seems to breathe with you, walls, roofs, and streets shifting in subtle rhythm, alive with centuries of unspoken stories. Alaric reaches into his satchel and draws out one final scroll. Its seal is broken, its parchment faintly yellowed with age. He places it gently on the stone beside you. This, he says softly, is the last piece I ever wrote. It isn't history, not really. It's a memory, one that refused to fade. He unrolls it slowly, the parchment whispering like wind. The writing is neat but faint, the ink almost translucent. He begins to read aloud, his voice barely above a murmur. When the world grows still and time forgets itself, the stories we've told become light in the sky. They drift beyond the reach of days and become the quiet stars that guide us home. He stops for a moment, letting the words settle into the night air like falling petals. Then he rolls the scroll again, holding it between his palms. These words, he says, aren't mine anymore. They belong to the silence now. A faint breeze passes through the square, lifting a few leaves across the cobblestones. The lamps flicker softly, and for a moment, the stars themselves seem to pulse in rhythm with your breath. Alaric turns toward you, his smile faint but warm. Perhaps, he whispers, we are not the ones remembering history. Perhaps it's history that remembers us. You feel your eyes growing heavier. The night around you thickens, yet it feels weightless, like being held in the palm of something infinite. The city blurs slightly, its outlines melting into soft shadow. In the distance, the faintest light begins to rise. Not quite dawn yet, but the promise of it. A silver haze touches the rooftops, outlining them in quiet glow. The air changes, the crickets slow their song. The world seems to inhale, preparing for the first breath of morning. Alaric rises, gathering his scrolls, but his movements are unhurried, almost dreamlike. He looks toward the horizon and speaks again, his tone both wistful and peaceful. Do you know what I love most about dawn? He asks. It never forgets the night that came before. Every sunrise carries the memory of darkness, just enough to make the light mean something. He looks back at you. The same is true for us. Every moment we've lived, every silence we've kept, every dream we've forgotten, they all become part of who we are. Nothing is truly lost. It only changes form. The first bird calls, soft and tentative, like a note plucked from a sleeping string. Then another joins it, and another, until the air hums faintly with awakening life. You look up. The stars are fading, melting into the blue-grey veil of early morning. The moon lingers low, pale and patient, unwilling to leave just yet. Alaric watches it too. Even the moon, he murmurs, takes its time letting go. The city stirs gently beneath you. Shutters creak open. Distant footsteps echo on the cobbles. A faint whiff of bread baking drifts from some unseen oven. The world begins again, slow and soft. But within that renewal, there is no urgency, no sound of labor or noise. It's as though the city wakes carefully, afraid to disturb the dream it's been holding through the night. You stand beside Alaric, the cool morning air brushing your face. Your body feels heavy, but it's the kind of weight that soothes, the way a blanket does after a long journey. He looks toward you one last time. Do you feel it? He asks. The past breathing through the present? You nod, barely whispering. Yes. He smiles again, that same calm, knowing smile, and gestures toward the horizon where the sun's edge glows faintly behind the hills. Then let it rest, he says. All of it. Let the world turn without us for a while. You close your eyes. The warmth of morning touches your face, the wind still cool against your skin. The air smells of light rain and soil, of beginnings. Alaric's voice fades into the distance, softer now, half dreamed. Sleep well, traveller. The world remembers you. Always. And as his words dissolve into silence, you feel yourself drifting, not away from the city, but deeper into it. The sound of water, the whisper of wind, the hum of distant bells, they blur together into one long, peaceful breath. The horizon brightens, the night folds away, and you, like the city, like history itself, surrender to rest. The journey is complete now. The cobblestone streets that once echoed with quiet footsteps have fallen silent again. The moon has drifted beyond the rooftops, and the faint gold of dawn stretches across the sky like a breath barely taken. The ancient city rests, not lost, not forgotten, simply asleep. You remain there, standing in the hush of first light. The air feels cool, tender, and full of meaning. Every sound has softened. The whisper of trees, the slow rhythm of water against stone, the distant hum of a waking world. The night's memories linger gently in your mind. The laughter of markets, the soft chanting from temples, the glow of lanterns that once guided your path. All of it has faded into something lighter, more distant. You can feel it loosening its hold, letting you drift, unburdened and serene. Breathe in slowly and exhale softly. With each breath, you are stepping away from the past and deeper into rest. The story, like a dream, has done its work. It has carried you through time and memory, through the hush of history and the calm of forgotten lives. And now, it leads you not to an ending, but to a place beyond endings. You feel your body sinking deeper into stillness. The surface beneath you feels soft, weightless, like clouds holding you gently. Your hands rest beside you, your eyes growing heavier. The mind begins to quiet. Thoughts slow, voices fade, and only breath remains. Somewhere in the quiet, Alaric's voice returns, faint, distant, almost like a memory whispering across time. "Do you remember what I told you?" he says softly. "Every night is an archive, and you are part of its story." His words linger like the last note of a song that never truly ends. You don't answer. You don't need to. The silence between each word is enough. It holds you, carries you, wraps around you like the warm cloak of night itself. The air grows heavier, softer still. The hum of the world fades until even your heartbeat feels like a faraway drum echoing in a vast, gentle sea. You feel yourself floating, not falling, just drifting through layers of quiet light. The sky turns from pale gold to soft grey, then to a calm blue that melts into nothingness. There are no more streets now, no more temples, no more names or histories. Only the breath, slow, deep, rhythmic, the lullaby of existence. Breathe in again. Let the breath move gently through you, unhurried, steady. With every inhale, peace flows in. With every exhale, everything else flows away. The chest rises, falls. Each inhale becomes shallower, each exhale longer, more peaceful. The boundary between body and world blurs completely. Now, Alaric's voice fades, replaced by something deeper, the rhythm of your own being. It speaks without words. You are safe. You are home. You are at peace. You can repeat it silently with each breath. Safe, home, peace. The repetition becomes a rhythm, not forced, just flowing, natural. It's the rhythm of sleep. Far away, bells ring softly from some unseen tower. One slow toll, then another, then silence. The sound stretches, fading into the air like a ripple across calm water. Every muscle loosens. Every thought drifts. Every sound grows distant. You are no longer in the story. The story is inside you. It moves through you like a slow tide, carrying fragments of calm through every corner of your mind. Perhaps you see images now, faint, dreamlike scenes that rise and fall without form, a candle flickering in a window, a feather floating through air, a face smiling through centuries, all of it soft, all of it peaceful. The light dims again. You are beneath the stars once more, though they no longer shine. They simply breathe. And so do you. Let the stillness take you deeper. Let the breath guide you down, layer by layer, into perfect quiet. The city disappears completely now. The sound of wind fades. Even memory itself softens until only comfort remains. You can feel the last thread of wakefulness unraveling, the soft pull behind your eyes, the gentle fall into rest. There's no rush, no destination, only this moment, endless and kind. If you listen closely, you can still hear Alaric's final whisper, gentle as air, ancient as time. Every ending is just another beginning in a quieter world. And with that, even his voice drifts away. The space he leaves behind is pure, luminous silence, the kind of silence that heals. Breathe and let go. The sound of your breath becomes the only sound. Slow, deep, and infinitely calm, the warmth around you grows thicker, wrapping you in comfort like a cocoon. You feel your heartbeat slowing, steady as a drum deep beneath the ocean. The world feels far away now, and yet somehow more intimate, like being held by time itself. You are safe. You are warm. You are free. The body rests. The mind rests. The story rests. Drift, float, sleep. There's nothing more to seek, nothing more to understand. Only peace, vast and endless, the kind that holds everything in stillness. The story you have heard will remain with you, not as words, but as calm itself. Its rhythm becomes your heartbeat, its silence your breath. The city sleeps, the stars dim, and the night folds softly into morning. But here, within this timeless quiet, you remain in perfect rest. Now, as you drift deeper, the final whisper comes, soft, reassuring, and full of kindness. The journey is complete. The city fades into dreams. You are safe and at peace. Let the words echo faintly until even they disappear. Let the silence take over completely. Sleep now, deeply, peacefully, until the world greets you again in light. Long pause, soft ambient fade, gentle wind and faint dawn bird song, and before the sound dissolves entirely, a final, almost dreamlike voice drifts through. If this journey brought you calm, remember to rest with us again. Subscribe for more relaxing history sleep stories, where every night is another chapter. In the story of peace, the sound fades, the wind grows still, silence remains, the story ends exactly where sleep begins.